Welcome to another episode of Chaotic Harmony, episode 127. I am Jonathan Seligman, one of your hosts today, and I am joined by the sensible one, Jasmine Ma. Hello, Jasmine.
Heyo.
Jasmine, I'm still workshopping that one. The first time we met, that was during the Laban music video game session, and you were the sensible one. So
I was pretty sensible then. I don't know about now. We'll find out.
We'll figure something out. And also, I am joined by the classy nerd himself, Genesis Santos. Hello, Genesis.
Howdy.
Also, Genesis, are you Santos or Santos?
Santos.
Okay, my apologies. I will mentally correct that. Also, you could stay as yours. I'm down to improvise, but classy nerd, I'll stick with that.
Yeah.
Anywho, we are not talking about sensibility, nor are we talking about nerdy. I mean, we might actually, we're definitely going to talk about nerdy, but today...
It's going to get nerdy up in here.
Oh, yeah. We are going to be chatting with our wonderful guest, Miss Ashley Brown Woodside. Hello, Ashley.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I'm so glad we could do this. I've been hearing your name a lot as a young music teacher amongst the Orff grapevine, as it will. And then finally, last year, I was finally able to meet you in person at conference and was able to connect. That was really great.
Yes. I'm so thankful for conference to get to meet you all. You were just asking me earlier how I know you all from, and really just conference, other than for Jasmine to have met her at a levels course. But conference is the great connector.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we're all always like not stuck, but we're always involved with just our own individual communities, and to ingratiate ourselves amongst the bigger community is always wonderful.
It is. And I noticed you also dropped the article before conference. The conference, it's not the conference. It's conference. It doesn't need the.
That's true. It's like we don't need the Facebook.
My boyfriend gives me a lot. He thinks it's pretty funny that we all sort of like DL agreed that it's just conference. It doesn't need a the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will mentally note that and keep that in mind. Before we get into that, we will be there is a lot of us for us to get into with Ashley, but just a reminder, this is Chaotic Harmony, y'all. The show where we talk about the joys, struggles, and all things adjacent to elementary music. A bit of housekeeping before we get in. In our last episode, we had Sasha, Jasmine, and myself talk about performances, which is a weird one because we have not recorded that yet. We'll be recording that in 2 days because of all how things are timey-wimey. So I can't tell how it went, but I'm pretty sure it went great since Sasha is a wonderful person. And it will be amazing. Next week, we're going to be talking about best practices on how to be there for and connect with our students, not just the outgoing stars and not just the quiet ones, but also, and maybe even more so, the hurting stars. So curious to hear more? Make sure you join us then. That all said, we're going to be entering the segment of Chaotic Harmony, Ashley, where we call our program notes. This is where the audience can get to learn a bit more about you as an individual. So, for example, where do you teach and how long have you been there and just the works?
Okay. These days, I am a full-time general music and chorus teacher at the Anne Arundel County Public School District. I am 3 days in a small public school with about 200 kids. And then on the other 2 days, I push into these, I'm sort of like the overflow music teacher. So I see a few grades at one school and a few grades at another school. It's challenging, but it's also kind of a neat opportunity to try things out on different populations, different demographics, folks who didn't come up through an Orff-Schulwerk program, seeing how my material works with kids who haven't had a whole lifetime of running around and creating and exploring. So it's been a really interesting journey, but I'm only on my second year in this position. I spent the last 10 years at a little Montessori school where my kids and I kind of camped out and grew up and did our thing together. I love learning. So when they said to me, hey, do you want to lead the lower elementary classroom? I thought, okay, I guess so. I'll give it a try. I still got to do the Orff program at that school, but I also was the full-time classroom teacher. That was a 6-year learning experience for me too. Really interesting to kind of get that really close connection intimately with kids for a long period of time, like a whole day hanging out with them. And before that, here and there and everywhere, I come from New York, and I did my training out in San Francisco for Orff. So I spent a little time teaching out there, a little time teaching at public schools in New York, and made my way down to Maryland, where I am now, in 2010. Yeah, 2010. So I spent a couple years in private school here at the Key School in Annapolis. And then when I had my babies, I went back to public school part-time as a band teacher. Hey, we could go on for a long time.
So you've been around for quite a bit.
I've been around. I got like good, deep experiences at certain places, and then also a nice variety. So it's kind of a nice balance of depth and breadth of experiences.
That's really cool. So just because it's Saturday morning and mathematics is not exactly the best for math, like, so even if you're okay with me asking, how long have you been doing the whole shebang for?
Well, I started teaching. I graduated in 2003 from Syracuse University. I'm a saxophone player, and yay, woodwinds!
Also, sax player over here.
Okay, excellent. And I touch it almost never, but it's sitting there. It's looking at me. So let's see, 2003, I started in New York for a few years and then finished training in San Francisco in 2009, I want to say, somewhere around then. Yeah,
Okay.
That feels about right. Yeah.
And also, you were an Orff certified teacher educator for movement levels 1 to 3. How long have you been doing that for?
2013 was my first levels course. Okay. And yeah, just various courses ever since. My two that I'm at now are the Memphis course at the University of Memphis and the Westchester University course in Pennsylvania. There have been others in the past that were awesome too.
And also, movement is your specialty. That's why I've been heard amongst the pupils, correct?
Yes, I love movement. I mean, I'm a general music teacher, so I do all the things. But yes, I came to Orff-Schulwerk as a person who grew up literally in a dance studio. Oh. My mother, she is from Israel, and when she came here, she tried to get like a workaday job and just really wanted to do something that she felt passionately about. So she opened a studio in our house, and it was my home, and it had kids in it all the time. So I have like a real deep background in dance, but also in teaching. And that's kind of what brought me to teaching. I still dance and I still love to dance, but I found in my Orff training that it was finally this moment where I could be as authentically me in my movement and creative without the intimidation of virtuosity or the intimidation of perfecting a specific technique. Yeah, so it was so freeing, and it meshed so organically with the music that we were using in our Orff training that it just opened up this whole curiosity for me, like what else, what if? And that's sort of what keeps me going every day now, is finding that meeting point between the movement and the music and that whole elemental vibe.
A lot of us, whenever we interview people, like we always talk to people and they always share, yeah, I was aiming to be a secondary band teacher because that's how I was raised. And then like, as you mentioned, like the when we went to university, the virtuosity really like kind of was a lot or the expectation of being virtuous. And then like you go into the elementary space and it becomes a different kind of situation. As someone who is a dancer, did that what was that like? Like I'm curious because I don't think we've ever talked to any dancers, unless Genesis, you're hiding something from me. Are you a dancer, Genesis?
No, not me. My sister is the one that dances in the family. I was forced to practice with her as a child.
There's your scoop, guys.
There we go.
That's always a successful approach.
Yes.
Yeah. I read a reflection that I wrote during my Orff training, and I'm so embarrassed to say that like I was grappling with the label of dancer, because I felt like in this reflection I was saying, like I feel like there was this expectation of being a real dancer coming into the course where I would have a certain way of responding to all the prompts that would be dancey. And I was trying to shed that and really, observe around me how beautifully the other participants were responding to the prompts without having had the depth of experience that I had. So it really messed with my head, like the identity piece versus like actual evidence that I was seeing around me, the beauty, the startling results that I could see. And it really moved me. So I wanted to find out more, like why is it that what we're doing in elemental movement can produce so much beauty versus when we've worked at refining things for so long. And then, you're just sitting there critiquing the mistakes and the things that don't measure up, it really flipped my training on its head.
Do I want to go Orff and just lean into this? Because like there's a lot of questions I could delve there.
I know we need to unpack a lot. It was deep.
Maybe I think we'd save it for another episode. But did you come to any conclusions along the way? Like, have you what have you concluded? What is your thesis?
I totally dug into it when I had my first baby, and I was sitting home and I was like thinking about Orff, but not able to be in the classroom. I wrote an article called Grace Notes for the Echo, where I tried to unpack like what is grace itself. What is it that you see in someone's movement where you're like, that was graceful? Or, we don't have a word for musicality in the dance world that has the same qualification that musicality has. Like when we're trying to give our children that je ne sais quoi on the instruments, and we give them elemental prompts for that, what do we do for that in movement or in dance? So a couple of thoughts I've come to that it's the making it look effortless, as long as it's not the point of the dance to look effortful. Some of that, which comes from a place of authenticity. Like you're not doing something outside of your ability. You're just taking yourself right to the edge of your ability. I'm not saying that exactly right, but I should just go back and read my article.
Well, maybe this is an encouragement to our listeners to actually go and pick that one up. Do you remember which Orff Echo it was?
I'll tell you, my baby's born in 2012, so it's somewhere around then.
All right, so listeners, go figure it out.
Put it in the comments.
Yes, we could delve into that. Maybe, again, like I said this to every single guest, but I feel like we can get into this topic more. But I'm asking you to be a part of this because I was really inspired by something that happened last conference. So last conference, you led a session called Animation, which I thought was going to be something entirely different, but but it was an amazing session. But something that really caught my ear is like you said, touch is vital. That was like near the end of the session. You mentioned touch is vital. And I know that there's an importance to its functionality, being a movement teacher. You kind of have to be in people's spaces, but vital is what got me. I found it very eye-opening. So could you explain to me and to the listeners and to everyone, why is touch vital?
I think we each bring some of our biggest priorities to our teaching. And, I ask my kids this a lot at school, like, what's more important to me? Do I want you to be a good musician or a good human? And they'll sometimes get it wrong. And I'll say, no, good human first, hopefully both. Okay. So that's sort of where I start conversations about things like touch or things like social skills, or just about kindness and inclusion or acceptance or adaptation, anything. Because the good human piece, luckily, and this works really well in our favor as teachers, luckily, the things that make us good humans often also make us good musicians. So they come back around. But the idea of touch for me has a lot of layers. I feel that our children, our students at school, depending on the culture of each building, are asked to remain in their bubble, in their personal space, whatever you call it, your hula hoop, and to exist alongside others, but with their attention often to a fixed point, usually a bright screen, a smart board or something, or or a paper or something in front of them that way, where the interactive piece is a sort of an afterthought. And so the music classroom becomes a place where they can really look into each other's eyes, make that kind of contact, work together collaboratively so that they're using all of that cognitive process to connect. But then the tactile is the one that can pare it down for those who may not have the cognitive piece as their strength, or who may not have the visual piece or the eye contact piece. It's just this other layer that's a great connector of humans. Personally, I feel that when people do have the ability to be appropriately touched or to offer appropriate touch, it allows them greater freedom of communication and connection with people that they have relationships with. And we're hoping to build that community in our classroom where they're relating to each other like humanly. So I do structure it really carefully. That's sort of the how. And I hope that with constant like reassurance, providing all of the little structures in place that we do as Orff teachers, that touch can become more natural. And it's kind of neat because it's only my second year at this gig, and I'm already seeing how it has rubbed off, even by the end of last year, how it's kind of gotten into their natural response. So I was doing a movement piece last year, and it was the end of the year. My fifth graders were just like, done. They're ready for middle school. It was either like sit down with a ukulele or, just they wanted that passive, like, can we just be done kind of experience. And we did a movement piece or experience where I said, or stillness, either way is cool. And they ended up in these piles of kids. It was just the cutest. I mean, fifth graders. There was this little pile of boys over here, little pile of girls over here. And I thought it was really a win for touch, for them having normalized working together, and letting their natural childhood tendencies be free and safe.
That was your first year with them, correct?
Yeah. So they didn't come up with me. So it was a great measure of like these subtle interventions.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, did they have a music teacher before that?
They did. She was new to teaching. So, I don't know, like if she was anything like me when I was new to teaching, it was probably like 98% dumpster fire, but like she had a lot of great things with them. But our county also, don't tell anyone, has like a lot of quaver stuff. And so I think most of the teachers and most, it's hard to compete with that. Genesis, you have a quaver thought?
Yeah, no, I'm not a quaver thought, but something came into mind. Like you are coming into this district for the first time, and being with these students for the first time, and them not being growing up with you, and having
Right.
and so I have new teachers in my district kind of coming in and whatnot. So my question for you, thinking out of their lens, right, of going on, what would be the secret sauce or your approach to like getting kids who have never done that before? Like, how do you foster that sense of like comfortability when they have that bubble set up?
Yeah.
For that? Like, how do you, what's your method of like breaking that down?
I'll see if I can make like a little
or
mental
nourishing
list
it
of things. It's a lot of things, but here's a few of my favorites. One of which, shout out to Krista Coogan, was inspired by one of her first day one, level one activities called As Fast as You Can, where she leads the children or the adult participants through a series of like just follow the leader kind of exercises, but it's going really, really fast. And so the thrill of it is so playful and so disarming that it kind of takes away the self-monitoring. That's a huge challenge for children who haven't done a lot of movement, especially standing in circles. They don't stand in a circle or sit in a circle in most of their other classes. So they're sitting there, they're kind of on the stage suddenly because everyone's looking at them and they can see everyone. It's a lot of adjustment. But if you're going as fast as you can, doing things that are pretty pedestrian and not super like techniquey and kind of playful, it's disarming. So fast tempos. And that idea of doing things that are pedestrian, things they already can mostly do, depending on their ability level. So giving a high 10 around a circle as fast as you can. How fast can you pass this high 10 around the circle? And I call it the cooperation game because I want them to know the big idea here is that you're part of a group and your success equals group success. But without your best effort, group failure. And I normalize failure too in my classroom. So passing around a high 10 as fast as you can, passing around the next thing would be like, okay, here's this little ball. Jump over it as it comes around the circle as fast as you can. See how quickly we can get it back to me. Oh, let's see if the B team can go faster. We go counterclockwise. Oh, the ball has grown. So now even those who are so guarded, they're not willing to jump over it the first time. Second time through, maybe they're jumping more. So it's these pedestrian movements that involve some contact, some high 10s, and we always test them on our own bodies first. So for touch, anything that involves touch, we know we have children who have different measures of what's appropriate touch in terms of firmness So we practice a high 10 on our legs first and get used to how much force to use. Does that feel appropriate? Can you go fast and be gentle? That way they start to build the trust like, okay, the person next to me didn't hurt me. I'm not hurting the next person. They take ownership. The fast as you can thing, I also use it a lot for the musical elements. So, the first week, it'll be just see if you can say your name around the circle as fast as you can. I say my name and they say theirs. So they start to use a talking voice, just like you would the pedestrian movement. It's using the voice that they're used to. If I can tell that there's a class that won't do that, we'll go right from magic lips and just use audiation right away at the beginning. So it's just a matter of finding, like with each class, how self-conscious, how self-monitoring are these kiddos? How much am I going to have to work to break them down? Because there are certain classes that are like, bring it. Like they're just fun. They're fun-loving. There's maybe more goofballs in the class that have already disarmed everyone. Maybe their teachers set up a culture of collaborative work or of movement that gives them a little bit more freedom. But that's how I start things off with a group that I haven't been with before. I'm in a new school this year. They shifted me from my one extra day at one school to a different school. I love it because it's closer to me. And I'm with a new teacher who's super interested in Orff. So
that's awesome.
It's really rewarding. So that's another school where I've been able to test out how quickly can I get them moving and touching in a way that's safe, but without hurting anybody's sense of like, am I cool? Do I fit in? That kind of a thing.
Ashley, do you mind? I don't know if Genesis and Jasmine, if you hear, like, I feel like your mic is getting softer and softer.
Yeah. I think it's because you moved back a little bit.
Is that all it is? Okay.
I think so.
It's just a little bit.
I went back like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then when you came back, it sounded fine to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got excited, guys.
Excitement's all good.
No more back then.
It's all fine.
We love excitement.
Do you mind just to make sure? Can you like mute your mic and unmute your mic on Zoom?
Mm-hmm.
Just unplug, replug.
Did that work?
Can you say hello or something?
Okay. Hello, test.
It still's on the soft end, but it's all good. I'll bump up this channel a little bit. Cool. All right.
Do you want me to try an earbud or something?
The earbuds often have the groggly element when it's Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's all good. All right.
I'll stay close.
Appreciate it.
Stay cozy.
Just to kind of recap, because a lot was shared in a good way. Like, first off, like you're saying, like touch is vital because it provides a sense of connection. So like it provides a sense of like connectivity with individuals, which is needed as people.
And with themselves too. So everything I mentioned, trying out a high five on yourself, every touch that we practice, that we are going to do with another person, we practice on ourselves first. And it's interesting because I think for some kids, even just giving themselves a little hug, giving themselves a hand rub or whatever, moving their own leg up and down can be new and a little intimidating too. So getting yourself back in touch with giving yourself touch. It's a strange concept, but the trauma piece is always in the back of my mind and or more toward the front these days. And I tend to very carefully measure the risk versus the benefit, not just to the group, but to the individual. I think of touch as something that can go wrong real fast, and safety being both emotional and actual physical safety, because once the kids start touching, you got to really remind them, we're taking creative risks, not physical risks, because that can be a tricky slope. But I have seen for some, especially for the adults who can share with me personal experiences more just communicate them better. I've seen healing happen where folks will say, I don't normally allow myself to be touched. I had a bad experience, and the way that this was structured provided enough clarity that it wasn't as intimidating. I had tried for a while. It seems like we went through a consent bubble around Me Too, where any touch came with consent, the need for verbal consent first. So I tried for a little while verbal consent, but, and this is a careful but, I found that if everything I teach them starts from giving my participants and my students permission to modify any activity, and that's built into the culture, the expectations of my classroom, then anything with touch is no different. So I'll just give an example. So in the beginning of my school year and at the beginning of every levels course at every level I teach these days, I give a lesson on how to use the elements of movement to modify. So any prompt that you're given, you can respond to that prompt appropriately just by modifying some elements to do it at your best ability, whatever is available to you that day. Because there's, you went through levels training, there's days that like certain things just are not available, or maybe you have a disability or a different ability that will adjust, give you a reason to adjust how you respond to a prompt. So I've learned that if I start my school year off for every grade level and my levels courses off with every grade level, teaching them how to modify a movement using these three elements, time and space and body. So if going faster or slower helps you access it, if making it bigger or smaller or seated or standing helps you access it, because for grownups, it's harder to get down on the floor sometimes. Yeah. For kids, sometimes being seated is a necessity. Or the third one was just what body part you use. There's some times where we're modifying just because we don't have a body part available to us. So because I build that into every movement experience, then touch is no different too. And students who would like to modify the touch part of an activity are just modifying the body. That's that one element that they've already practiced modifying. So by giving everyone a chance to modify and go through that experience, then not a day goes by where someone doesn't raise their hand and tell their music teacher, like, oh, in PE, I fell and twisted my ankle. And, so you have to give them that sort of like, that personal attention. Well, for our classroom, we've practiced, okay, I have this, I don't use a lot of visuals in my room. Like I'm all about that personal connection. But one of those anchor charts is the modify lesson. So that anytime they come to me with any injury or a new ability or disability, then I just point to the chart and say, okay, what are you going to modify? And then if they are modifying and they haven't told me, if it's not appropriate the way they're modifying because it's disruptive in some way, we can talk about it using elemental language without a judgment. It's a little bit less, it's not just a free-for-all in my class, or you don't just modify everything. You kind of got to follow those agreements.
Consent is important. Giving permission is important, especially when we're talking about connection. But I think there is something to be said about this element of improvising on the spot and also giving like nonverbal communication as well. And there's so many layers to that. And so I do appreciate that you still push for, like, while you, like, it's very evident that you are someone who pushes for consent, but also you're someone who's still, hey, there are other ways to showcase it. There are other ways that for us to communicate that, hey, maybe of where we are at currently. And you mentioned, sorry, do you want to add on to that?
The only thing I was going to add to that is, I think also just giving the choice. So one activity, we're doing an activity called Sculpture and Clay, where one person's moving the other person's body. And that can be really sensitive for some people. But the music I use is really playful. It's almost like a circusy vibe and has lots of little sound effects over the top. And in this case, I let them know the expectation is you're probably going to talk a little bit. That's okay. Just keep it really quiet so you can still hear the music you're moving to. That way, if actually touching their body is just too much for some kids, they can actually just tell them, like, okay, bring your arm up. That there's a second approach that they can use. But most kids, by making it really playful, it actually just starts to feel comfortable for them and they get into it. Like sometimes really, really into it.
I like that because you shared earlier when Genesis asked this question that like the activity that you used was about doing things quick. And then this one is about play. And I feel like play is kind of the answer to get people out of their shells or to get people to connect. Is play just the answer to everything?
It should be. I think, let's just go with that. Yeah.
There we go. There's your next Orff Echo. Get y'all. Play is the answer to everything.
I think for me, like I was thinking a lot of your answers because a large amount of my school is special ed, and they have multiple different comfortability levels, especially with touch. Like sometimes I have students who, when it comes to touch, it's like it's no more, like you can't go higher than here. Like if anything above, not gonna happen. Or students with specific disabilities where we can't use our legs, we can't use the right side of our body. So thinking about the different ways that you would adjust, have you had any experience with special education and working with those students and building that community with so many different adjustments and modifications that you would need to make?
Yeah. It's typical. Well, the three schools I work at have different, I'd say, ratio of special ed to typical students. But I think, again, having started off the year and always harping on that whole idea of that we modify things, it doesn't feel like it's just the purview of the special ed student to need modifications. It's really for everyone. And it's not just a reflection of disability, it's also about your comfort level. And off the year also with a same and different, not mantra, like chant, where we talk about we are all the same and different. We talk about abilities, we talk about a lot of things, anything but characteristics of bodies. That's off the table. So we talk about anything that makes us all the same, anything that makes us different. And we realize that, it's a lot easier to list things that make us different than the same. But if we think about what we need, it's all the same. So I can come back to that conversation a lot when adjusting an activity to make everyone included. The language I use around it is like, how can we make everyone feel welcome in this? So that, if it needs to be a completely different activity, a different way of doing the activity for the whole class, it's worthwhile because we want everyone to feel welcome. And if it's not an activity that everyone can access, then it's not welcoming. So that's happened too, where, I've got these great plans. I even made visuals and, it's just not the right fit for that population. And so you've got to take a left turn and try it in a totally new way. Usually the students are the best at thinking of the adaptation that would need to be made to the lesson to make it welcoming for everyone, because they've built more rapport with one another. They know more about each other's abilities and interests. So if I have to change a waltz from like something that's all very sweet and dainty and fairy-like to like Rex, Raptor, blah, 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 dinosaur, to make it accessible for certain kiddos who really will only participate in music if it's about dinosaurs. We're going to be dancing about dinosaurs. That's happened. And just like the whole story about curb cuts making things better for everyone or for a lot of other populations than it was expected to, in my experience, whenever I've adapted a lesson for a certain person, even just one person's needs or interests, it's benefited everyone. I now teach waltzes as a Rex Raptor because it was the only way one child would participate. But now everyone loves that visual for like that heavy, light step of a waltz. So yeah, it keeping the fundamental purpose of a lesson still like authentically concept driven, element driven, and really rigorous for everyone is the challenge. How we do that is it's what makes me excited as a teacher. I don't teach the same way twice for any lesson. Yeah, so the spontaneity is part of what I love about responding to different needs is, it'll be something that I never expected. And that's what keeps it interesting to me and exciting. I think also because we're elemental music and movement people, the possibilities are so expansive that to get locked in on one idea, one way, it's not serving the humans that are in front of us in the classroom. So that's always in the back of my mind. Like, what was I actually trying to teach here? Can I do that in the way that gets everybody involved?
You mentioned something right there that I really liked, that the accommodation of one child usually benefits everybody. And it kind of reminds me, well, I might have not quoted you perfectly, but like that ethos of like, I feel like a lot of people like, or not everyone, but like there are people who think
that sounds better than what I said.
But there are people who believe that if why should we make an accommodation for one child or for, a specific population? But oftentimes, like if you just make it for that one person, everyone benefits. It's kind of, I forget, my friend Maya Diaz, she was actually a former guest here a while back in season 1. She mentioned to me like this notion of I'm gonna butcher it. My apologies, Maya, but it was along the lines of if we help out the hurting, we help out everybody. I can post her quote in full later on, but yeah, if we help out the hurting, we help out everybody. And like similarly, if we make someone who feels uncomfortable in the classroom, if you accommodate for them, likely it's gonna be a good for everybody else. I like that.
Yes, and the idea of comfort is also one that I love to dance around, because we know that growth happens at the end of our comfort zone often, and that if we want to expand ourselves, we have to go a little bit to that edge. And so I talk to kids like really openly about risk, about taking creative chances, about feeling a little bit uncomfortable. We say we're going to ride the awkward turtle right now, guys. This may feel cringe, right? But it'll give you a lot more choices. What's better than more choices? So I push them and I'll say, okay, let's do something really comfy, because I could tell you all just pushed your boundaries. Let's get back into the comfy, warm slippers of something that's very familiar. Comfort doesn't necessarily always equate with safety.
Sure.
So yeah, the hurting, that's beyond comfort. Hurting can come from being excluded because you just can't access the lesson the way it's being presented. Even my resistance, and anyone who worked with me before will know, like I never had slides at my levels training. I was really resistant to technology in general. Coming back to public school full time, I realized, okay, well, when I go to conference sessions, I forget to listen. And then I wonder, what is it we're supposed to be doing? Because I was talking to my friend. So the slides actually help me, or, even just not even just for myself, when I see that the main idea of what I've been teaching is a little bit like secretive, like maybe the kids didn't realize that today's lesson was about dynamics. It's really helpful to anchor the lesson with some visuals and with something interactive, physical or visual, in front of them, to help them with the vocabulary of elemental music and movement. So I've become a little bit slide nerdy, which
Hey.
It's so fun. I don't know. I get into a flow. I'll stay after work sometimes and just be like, tweaking slides and but it also really helps me process the lesson too. So that said, the slides probably would have originally maybe helped like 20% of my, maybe was meeting the needs more of 20% of my classroom. But now my whole classroom is getting more reinforcement of the vocabulary, maybe visuals to help them really and kinesthetically. So I think it's a win, like the curve cut thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I know we could delve in longer. I love all your thoughts. But I do want to ask, I asked our audience, if there are any questions for you. And so our time is limited to ask all these questions, but Genesis, do you have a question that speaks to you that's in this doc?
Ooh, okay. I think you shared a lot of your lessons that you do with your kids, so I think this one would be great. How is teaching levels, giving us a little bit of a turn, how is teaching levels different than teaching kids for you?
Oh my gosh, pace. The pace is ridiculous. I get through like a year worth of material in 2 weeks with people at levels courses. And I do remind the participants a lot, okay, that last 5 minutes was 1 week and the next 5 minutes is another week, because the pace is so rapid. And I don't want to set them up to expect that that's how you roll out a unit on body design or something, in your classroom, where it's going to be a 2-month unit versus the last 30 minutes of your levels training. So that's huge. The same kind of physical limitations I was talking about before with levels training participants. We're older humans and it's harder to get up and down off the floor. For kids, their teachers love it if I wear them out coming up and down off the floor, and
Yeah.
That's really encouraged. So, there's a little bit more modifying of space in the levels training as well. But sometimes I stop. I guess this is a way in which they're similar, because I'll watch what's happening and just feel really lucky and spoiled a little bit that's what I get to do with my time in the summer, is watch adults find out that they can move really beautifully, or just playfully, or have fun moving their bodies. And the same can happen with children, but it's to a larger degree with adults, because they might have had these schemas that they're not a mover, or that they used to move, or, that's a big one too. So giving them just the experiences to get back into that part of themselves is really, really rewarding. And watching what they can do, it feels like I should be paying sometimes to see a show, because they're really gorgeous. It's also just way easier.
That's fair.
The management concerns are they're there because you're still working with humans and wanting to make sure you're meeting all the needs, and yeah, everyone comes from a different teaching situation or not. And so you want to be able to address each person's, how are you going to apply this to where you are, and how can I help you make this meaningful? But it's so much easier than teaching children, because, you're in factory farming mode at school. You get those 20 some odd kids in, and the next, and there's hundreds of them. You get to hold on to these adults for 75 minutes and really go deep. Yeah, it's a way different energy, but I love both.
Well, thank you, Ashley. I unfortunately, we had 4 more questions from our audience, but I think just for sake of time, we'll probably put a pause. But Yeah, that last question was asked by Joshua, by the way. So he gives a little shout out to you. That all said, Ashley, this was a really great chat. I learned a lot. I've also expounded upon a lot from last year. Are you going to be presenting this coming year or no?
No, I like to do every other year so I can just be a tourist this year.
Fair enough.
With friends.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if y'all see Ashley at a conference, make sure you just give a huge hello there. But we will be back, y'all. Don't leave. We will be back after the break.
Hey, we just want to take a quick moment to shout out Mission Trails Financial, the partner making this show possible at no cost to you. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by financial planning, you're not alone. But Mission Trails Financial is here to make things simpler. They offer tailored financial advice for you, from investments to tax and insurance planning, with a team of experienced fee-based advisors who are CFP designated and fiduciaries. That means they're putting your best interests first. Let's face it, navigating the world of finances can feel like drinking from a fire hose with endless options for investments just a mouse click away. But Mission Trails Financial aims to cut through the noise by breaking things down into clear, actionable steps while providing regular updates. Mission Trails Financial believes everyone has the right to work with a financial advisor regardless of how much you've saved. Mission Trails Financial's focus is building a relationship so you are not traveling your financial path alone. They even help you keep track of old 401ks when you're transitioning between jobs, because your financial future should always stay on track, no matter what changes. So don't wait. Let Mission Trails Financial show you how to make that next step towards the future you've worked hard for. Plus, your first consultation is absolutely free. Just visit missiontrailsfinancial.com or call 619-419-0238 today. You'll be glad you did, because leaning on professionals like Mission Trails Financial is how we get ahead. Check out the program notes for more details. Advisory services offered through New Edge Advisors LLC, a registered investment advisor.
And we're back. Thank you all so much for being a part of this nearly 7-year journey. Whether you joined us in episode 0 with Lauren Shelton or you're here today, thank you. It means so much to have you join us. And if you want this journey to continue, please, 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 please support the things that you love. We have a Patreon, and you can check that out on our website, where you can get special merch or things for your class. We are kind of revamping it, working things out, adding more awesome stuff. So keep that in mind. And it'll probably be ready in a few weeks. Some things have happened, so it's on the horizon for there. With that, if you don't have a coin to toss our way, that's totally okay. There are many free ways to support us. You can leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you know the drill. 5 stars, 2 + 3, 5, only 5. I know a lot of times we use a lot of music that only counts to 4, but 5, please. And if you'd like to leave a written review, we'll read it on the podcast. We haven't had anything as of yet that I'm aware of.
Michelle Fish is the last one. Thank you, Michelle. But no, we need to spread this, So yeah, more. Sorry.
So
Jasmine,
please, no, it's all good. But please add some comments. We'd love to read them on here. We really appreciate all the feedback that we've been getting. So please let us know. Follow us on YouTube and the socials, and leave this and if you really love this episode, leave it a like, write a nice comment. All these small things really ensure that the mics and lights stay on.
Even when we have blackouts and laptop battery dies. So even more of a reason. Anywho, next off is our Spiccato. And we've been doing this for a while, so in case you don't know what this is all about, Spiccato is where we take a random item you might find in our house or somewhere else, and how do we use it for the general music classroom. So today I have something that I'm pretty sure everybody has. They might have different variations, but today we are going to be having a USB cable. You know these exist.
Which one do we got?
I have USB B to A, so actually an old one here.
That is really old.
Oh.
So for printers or for certain microphones, these might still use it. But what would you do with a USB cable in the general music classroom?
This is unfair because I've been doing something very similar to a USB cable with my students. So here's what I've been doing. I've been using a pipe cleaner with my kids, but you can do the same thing with a USB. I have them create a shape with the USB, or in this case, the USB, either on the floor or like if we can tape it onto the wall or something. They make a shape and then they have to track it with their voice.
Pitch explorations.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they've been doing that a lot.
I've been using
doing it in a little circle. We've been passing it around. It's been a lot of fun.
Jasmine, you're saying?
Yeah, I was like, I use pop tubes for movement where I have them create shapes, but then if they work together, because mine like twist together, like they'll twist it with a friend. Yeah, I had learned that from Ani Berrios, and she had a session at AOSA, Vamos a Jugar, and she had put that in as like utilizing it like an accordion, but making different shapes. And that was, it was so fun.
I think for me, I would take the cable, depending on how pliable it is, similar to pitch exploration, but why not also body exploration, body movement? So creating a shape with your body based off how it bends. So if it creates a wave, do that. Also, if like one thing I love about movement, which it does happen with, the non-movement based portions of the classroom, but whenever things I give a movement activity, kids just want to do it together. And so like if it's too, if their body is too short to make whatever shape the USB cable makes, someone else will join them. So maybe that might be a body exploration. How about you, Ashley?
Okay. The first thing that came to mind is I keep repairing instruments, so I would probably be using it as tubing on a bass.
Love it.
We had a project in 4th grade where I had found a djembe a couple of weeks ago at the dump, and the folks at the dump wouldn't let them throw it out. So because it just had a broken head. So I salvaged it and made it like a little project for my 4th graders to salvage. And they've been tying and pulling, and we didn't buy new strings, so I had to like supplement with some wire. So after it tightens down, the wire will be gone. But instrument repair has been on my mind. For movement, pathways, like just creating neat long zigzags, because wires you can cinch a little bit, and curves and straight parts. But the other thing for the element of rhythm would be long and short. It's so fun to see how long can they make a long sound, how long can they go long. So just spread the whole thing out and follow it with your finger while making one long sound, either on an instrument or with your voice, and then have something next to it that's really, really short to provide the contrast of long and short sounds. I don't know. That's off the top of my head, though.
Cool. I love that.
Or it could be a jump rope. Oh my gosh, it could be a jump rope.
That's true too. I thought of a book as well. Like, a book. It's The Squiggle.
Mm-hmm. That's what I use for pathways.
That would be such a good one to use, like a long, like a USB. But like, I know some people use yarn. Like, one of our AOSA peeps, Teresa Ramirez, had like a whole project with the squiggle where you'd explore it with your voice. You'd explore it with like moving around, making sound effects. But like immediately when you showed that, I was like, a squiggle.
It's a squiggle.
Something that's been happening at my school site since COVID, I've become the unofficial IT person. So like just fixing people's doc cams, this is what I'd be doing. Yeah. The USB-B, that's definitely for doc cams. But to our listeners, what would you do with a USB cable in the general music classroom? Let us know. You can email us at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com. Speaking of letting us know, Ashley, I'm sure when people listen to this episode, they will be wondering, how can I acquire the knowledge that is from Ashley? What is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Oh, I don't know. Just find me. I'm on Facebook, Ashley Brown Woodside. But you can email me. My email is orange, the color, ORANGE, ash for Ashley, ASHE @gmail.com.
Yeah, I noticed orange ash is common. What's with orange? I'm curious. Just your favorite color?
Oh, yeah. No, I got my first email account when I was in college, and it was Syracuse orange. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I can't pick a favorite color. I ain't fancy. They're all nice.
Fair enough. Speaking to about colors, Man in Black, Genesis, how can they reach out to you?
You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Santos Music Teacher. And then my email also, if you want to reach out to me directly, is also Mr. Santos Music Teacher at Gmail. But I believe that one does not have the period after the R.
So the dot for the socials, no dot for the email. Awesome.
Yes.
And for you, Jasmine, how can people reach out to you?
You could probably find me on Facebook as Jasmine Ma. Sometimes they'll pop up if you use my maiden name, Melendez. Or you can find me on Instagram with Jasmine Rice Flour. Rice like the food, flour like the baking ingredient, not like the floral pretty plant.
Cool. And you can find me at Mr. Seligman, MrSeligman on all the socials, as well as following us at CH Classroom. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all so much for listening. This is Chaotic Harmony, the best elementary music show with Ashley Brown Woodside with blackout problems and USB cables. So, Ashley, once again, thank you so much for joining. It's been a wonderful pleasure getting to know you last year and now talking with you today. I'm sure that this will just continue from there.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye.